to bring me here, and I'm extremely grateful because it's not only a pleasure to work for an institution that is dedicated to solidarity, but it happens to be in one of the most wonderful cities in Spain, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with my longtime friend, Sami. So I have many reasons to be happy this evening and to be delighted speaking to you all. As you know, I've been asked to cover globalization, environment, and solidarity. And at first glance, they have nothing in common, or they are very separate topics. But I think that they are not only huge subjects, which we could spend all day discussing, each one of them, but they do have some relationships, and I'll try to highlight those as we go along. So let's start with a little bit of history. Why globalization all of a sudden, and why did they choose that word, and what does it mean exactly? Well, I think the word globalization is a hoax, a certain kind of hoax. It is a kind of lie, because what globalization really does is to impose neoliberalism, which I'll say more about, what the doctrine is, all over the world, so that we have a uniform ideology. And globalization also does what I call take the best and leave the rest. The best being those who are the most educated, who are the most willing to do what the globalizers want, and who are the elites, very often, of countries. But this leaves a great many people behind. The geopolitical significance of globalization is that, as some of you remember, some may be too young, the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. And at that point, the transnational corporations, which up to then had been fairly parochial, they had been staying in the United States and Europe, and of course some of them had branches in the South, but it didn't go much farther than that. But when the wall falls, then the world seems to be opening completely. And this was a huge development for the transnational corporations. And it's interesting to note that that is also
fue el momento en el que empezó a producirse la presión a los gobiernos de forma más seria en las tareas de lobby. Las corporaciones transnacionales antes no ejercían tal presión. Por ejemplo, en 1986 no ejercían presión a ningún Estado, pero a partir de esa fecha empezaron a crear mucha presión en el cine, en el ocio, etc. Empezaron a entrar a hablar con los negociadores, con la gente que tenía el poder para imponer
to obtain, and since then, the transnationals have become the biggest lobby in the world, no matter what area they are in, whether it's pharmaceuticals or entertainment or finance or whatever else. The state is no longer the only actor. We have these corporations, and we have the cultural context of neoliberalism, which is the ideology that says that the only factor of production, as Marx would have called them, the only factor that's really important is capital. Labor isn't very important, and the environment is less important than anything, except that you couldn't produce unless you had raw materials from the environment. But the attitude of globalization is that it is the capital that's important, and they are dedicated to the free movement of goods and services, but not necessarily the free movement of people. And that is what Sami will talk to you very eloquently about. No trade treaty has a single word about labor or about laws to protect the environment. That simply disappears from the agenda. And the transnational corporations, what do they want from globalization? They want what they call to pull down barriers, because barriers are costly. But they're not talking so much about the barriers which are tariffs at the frontier. They are talking about what we would call, what they call, behind borders barriers. We would simply call these regulations and protections for ordinary people. The companies call them costs. But when you look at what's negotiated in the TTIP, which I don't believe is completely dead, or in the Canadian-European Treaty, which has been approved by the European Parliament, unfortunately, and I make a parenthesis here, I encourage you to call upon the Spanish Parliament to refuse this treaty, not to ratify it, for many reasons which I don't have time to go into. Pulling down the barriers, that means getting rid of regulations, and that is the agenda that they have, because it does cost them some money. But what their costs are our benefits. Don't we want an agency which controls the quality of food? Don't we want protection from phony scientific or pharmaceutical goods? We need these things. And so globalization is a kind of covering mechanism for the rights of transnationals. Now, I think it is evolving presently towards three different types, kinds of globalization. At the beginning, it was simply capitalism moving in big time into the global picture and becoming an actor as important as the state. But now I think there are three different sorts of globalization. One of them, the first, is just what I've been talking about. There are still plenty of corporations which simply see their job as getting rid of regulations, as making as much money as they can, not giving a damn about labor or the environment. Let me cite, for example, Monsanto. Monsanto's behavior has always been about those things, and they don't care who knows it, and they're not trying to hide that they are a predatory company which is prepared to give cancer to thousands of human beings using their pesticides. But there are different sorts of globalization, and the second one, I believe, was invented by Davos, the World Economic Forum, which holds its big Davos festival every January. And Davos prides itself on being, we are the people who are going to save the world. They're going to give us a better world. So what does Davos say? In 2007, 2008, when we had the huge financial crisis that you all know about, Davos said there's something wrong with the world management. States are not doing their job, and we have to come in. Mostly the economic factor. But they also decided that we had to have a multilateral stakeholders governance of the world, that civil society had to be able to contribute. And this is when they founded something which is not very well known, which is called the Global Redesign Initiative. Global redesign, very ambitious, but Davos is going to do it. So what do? They bring together groups to work on these issues, and here I have a list of the issues that they decided to work on. There are about 60 of them, and I could just take randomly education systems, ocean governance, pandemics, catastrophic risks, international monetary system. You see, it's everything. In all of these things, we will bring together working groups made up of the best people to set a program for this, so they invite mostly corporate representatives, but not only. There are some carefully chosen academics. There would be one or two safe NGOs. I don't think FAMSI would be included because FAMSI perhaps isn't safe. FAMSI perhaps wants things that the transnationals would not want. But Save the Children, for example, that's a good one. Save the Children has already accepted $5 million from Coca-Cola, so why not have Save the Children be in the groups? That's good publicity. And then they have maybe a religious leader here and there, and well, you see the spectrum. The civil society will be represented, but only the stakeholders. I hate this word, parenthesis again. I hate this word because in English it means always something to do with a bet or money or property. That's what a stake always is. And they have the word now that Davos uses, but the European Commission uses also, is stakeholders. So you're only a stakeholder if they tell you they are. If they tell you you're a stakeholder, then yes, you can come to our meeting. You can, but not you. So that is the Global Redesign Initiative. Now they've renamed it. Now it's called Shaping the Future. So you see they're ambitious, they think they can do this, but what do they want? They want to try to change the consensus so that it will be more acceptable to ordinary people, and because they think that if we go on as we're going on, it's going to fail. And they want globalization of their sort to succeed, because it's much better for capitalism to be more broad-minded and bring in everyone, so that all kinds of people will think, well, this is a pretty good system. And type 3, now I get to type 3, which is it's recent. And it's very scary. And it comes along with the election of Donald Trump. And Steve Bannon, who is one of Trump's closest advisors, is having a war inside the White House with other advisors and other interests. But Steve Bannon seems to be winning. And he has advised on the choice of almost all the cabinet officials. And Steve Bannon has said, I quote, "My mission is to destroy the administrative state." It's a big order. A state is not easy to destroy. But what does he mean? He means by that the market can solve all of our problems, and so we give the market the job of solving our problems, and we deregulate and we privatize. So the destruction can be seen in the choices for the people who occupy the big, who are like ministers. We call them secretaries, but they're ministers. The education minister is a woman who has fought all her life for only private education and charter schools, which means schools that are brought together by special interests. She doesn't want public education, and she isn't advocating public education. The environmental minister is someone who has been fighting against the agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, for 40 years. He's been bringing lawsuits against it in all kinds of areas. And he wants to destroy the agency that he has been named to head. The health system is the same. The labor minister has been an anti-union person all his life. So you see, what is happening is that they are just erasing all kinds of issues. There isn't any labor problem. There isn't any environmental problem. There's no problem with public education. Our health system is fine. It's the most costly in the world, but that's good for pharmaceutical companies. companies. And you see, if you erase the issue, if there isn't an issue, you can very well erase the department that is supposed to deal with it. So this is this, as you can see, this kind of globalization is directly attached to the decision of Trump to leave the Paris Agreement and to say that he has called the environment all the talk about global warming and so on. He says that's a hoax and that it's China who has invented it. And we are getting out. Now, this is a double-edged sword. When he made this announcement first, a lot of commentators in the United States were saying that this is a disaster because if Trump takes the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement, then a lot of other countries are going to say, well, if he doesn't want to do anything, why should we? I mean, we won't do anything either. But that is not what has happened. And I think it is a kind of triumph that the reaction of the public, but also the reaction of many governments has been extremely positive, saying Trump can do that, but we will make up for it. We are going to continue to fight. And this is most noticeable, perhaps, in the United States itself, among cities, because cities which had already begun to make their transition are saying, well, we will try to go further and faster. You may remember that Trump, in his speech about leaving the environmental agreement, said, I was elected to serve the citizens of Pittsburgh and not of Paris. Well, Pittsburgh reacted by saying, you haven't been to Pittsburgh in 30 years. Yes, we were devastated by the steel crisis, and we were devastated, and we are in what is called a Rust Belt state. All of the states that had heavy industries, which have been completely ruined. But Pittsburgh has reinvented itself as a center of research. It's a thriving city. People are moving there. The mayor is a very environmentally convinced man, and he said Pittsburgh is the future, and we are going to. Trump perhaps doesn't think he was elected for us, and obviously he wasn't, but we're going to go ahead. Mayor Bloomberg of New York, former mayor of New York, who has some well, he has other financial interests, shall we put it that way. He is a very big financier, and he invented the Bloomberg agency. But he's contributing $15 million to help cities to react to the crisis and to do more and to do it better. They are, and what is stupid about Trump, one of the many things that is stupid about Trump, is that he says, I'm not here for Pittsburgh, I'm here for Pittsburgh but not for Paris, but the environment is there for all of us. You can't just save the environment in the United States and then expect everything else to deteriorate. If we have global warming, it's for all of us, as you can see perhaps in Córdoba today and yesterday. And every year up to now has been hotter than the one before, since 2014. So you may be in for worse in Córdoba than you have seen in the last 2 days. But let me just give you a couple of facts about the diagnosis. Probably most of you know all of this, but there are a few specifics I'd like to give you. You know that scientists measure global warming in parts of carbon dioxide per million, ppm's parts per million. In the pre-industrial world, for several million years, the ppm count was 280. It is now at 410. A man in the United States called Bill McKibben founded about 15 years ago an organization he called 350.org for the computer, and 350 was where he thought we should stop. And since then we have gone way beyond that. We're at 410. We have lost 4 million square kilometers of sea ice in Antarctica and the Arctic since compared to the average of 1980 to 2010. And the environment is not something you can deal with arithmetically. In other words, if you add 1 plus 1 plus 1, it doesn't make a nice straight line on the graph necessarily, because you can have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus infinity, because it can go off the charts, and you can never say when that point is going to be reached. Is it reached at 415 ppm? Is it reached at 500? We can't tell you. But that means runaway climate change. And I will tell you what I worry about most is the melting of the permafrost in Siberia and northern Canada, where millions of tons of methane are imprisoned permanently in ice. And that methane is 20 times stronger than CO2, and the permafrost is melting. And this gives me nightmares, because who knows what the impact of these millions of tons of a gas 20 times stronger than CO2 is going to be. But it isn't going to be pretty. And that means that we all have to become environmentalists, whether we like it or not. And I would say that this is even more true of solidarity organizations like FAMSI than for other people. The oceans are warming, ocean fauna and flora are dying. You've read about the white coral reefs, but because the oceans are warmer, there's more evaporation, and that means more huge, heavy rains, as, for example, the huge rains that happened in Colombia and Peru last year, where there were enormous mudslides and hundreds of people were killed because their houses simply slid into the vacuum. So we know we're going to have more floods, more droughts, more storms, more all kinds of disruptions. Is there a bright side to any of this? Well, geopolitically, yes, there may be a bright side, because China seems to be taking over the leadership. Trump moves out, China moves in. The big new star is Premier Xi Jinping of China, because he has said he is going all out for climate protection. I give you one anecdote. There's apparently 170,000 taxis in Beijing, and within 5 years, they all have to be electric. No more gasoline taxis or gas-fed taxis. And although the United States is now called the second biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, and China is the first, and that's true, but a lot of those Chinese tons of carbon are made by producing goods for us and for the United States. So this means that China is simply taking on what America's emissions were before we started buying so many, and Europe's before we started buying so many things from China. So I think the Chinese are serious, and I think also that we have a lot of other kinds of reactions besides the cities and some states which have said we are going to do our utmost. Jerry Brown of California, the governor of California, has a kind of foreign policy. He is making treaties with a lot of different regions or states in countries that have states. I think he's got about 140 signed up now. And he is leading a kind of effort which is transnational and whose goal is to change any city ordinances or state laws which prevent working in favor of less CO2. And there are some, because there was an effort in New York, for example, where New York City had drawn up a very good plan, and then it was crushed by the government of the state of New York in Albany. So there are contradictions within the same state or the same country. And Brown's goal is to get rid of all of those things, and he's making a lot of people extremely conscious of these facts. So, but there are other kinds of reactions. There are investments. There are now, according to the Ethical Finance Report, which is a good publication produced in Florida by a woman called Hazel Henderson, the Ethical Finance Report says that now we have, since 2000, I think it's, yes, since 2007, since the big crisis, there has been $8.3 trillion invested in green renewables and in environmentally friendly infrastructure, in all kinds of environmental goods. If you want to know how much is $1 trillion, $1 trillion, if you look at your watch and you have a second hand, and every second is $1, then you have to wait 34,000 years to reach 1 trillion. So 8.3 trillion, multiply, I haven't done it, but multiply 34,000 by 8.3, and you will see how many years of watching your second hand you have to wait before you get, it's a lot of money. So, and this is growing, and people expect it, the financial people expect it to be 10 trillion in another 3 years. So this is very encouraging news. And I think fossil fuels are already on their way out, but unfortunately the financial markets haven't heard about this yet, because the financiers who counsel people and counsel institutions on where they should invest are still saying to them, but it's risky to sell your shares in Exxon, or risky to sell your anything that you have in your portfolio which is based on fossil fuels. But the reality is that fossil fuels are already disappearing because renewables are becoming so cheap. And when Trump says that coal will come back, he is lying to the poor miners, because coal is not economically viable, and it is not going to come back, because capitalism will not allow it to. If it were, say, a good product, it still wouldn't be allowed. So many schools, colleges, and semi-private institutions are divesting. They're getting rid of all their stocks in fossil fuels. This is a countrywide movement. I don't see it happening yet in Europe, but I think it should. People should think about, if they have investments in stock markets, they should definitely think about divesting from fossil fuels. And many public retirement funds are doing this in the US, etc. My examples come mostly from the United States, because that's where I think the worst, but also the best, is happening, and China, also the best. So, right now, there's about 100,000 jobs in fossil fuels in the United States, and there's 3 million already in renewables. And when we go around saying, invest in renewables, you will see that your unemployment problems will disappear. Well, yes, that's true, because it will create millions of jobs every year in biological agriculture, in installations of new renewable technologies, in reworking the buildings that have been constructed without environmental features, etc. So, we have a green transition that is underway, and it's going to be a fight. This is a suspenseful story. We don't know which side is going to win. But we have a chance. And here is where the question of solidarity comes in and is very important. Koch is rewarding, Trump is rewarding his Republican donors, like the Koch brothers. They are very big in oil and gas. Maybe you haven't heard of them, they don't like publicity, but these are two of the richest Americans, and they are ultra neoliberal, extremely right-wing, and they have given millions to Trump. And he is rewarding them. He's rewarding all of the rich Republican donors and corporations. But there are other people who are being rewarded by better forces. And those are those who suffer from
mediante otras medidas. Por ejemplo, aquellos que sufren de desempleo, bueno, podrían verse recompensados si apostaran por las energías renovables. Esa podría ser una salida.
Davos, por ejemplo, es un ejemplo de ello, como he explicado al principio. No creo que sea un ejemplo eficiente, digamos, pero considero que hay una especie de equilibrio. Bueno, es una historia bastante dramática, pero hay un equilibrio entre aquellos a los que le da igual el clima, no se preocupan por el clima, bueno, no son tantos en número, pero sí son muy poderosos. Y luego está la gran cantidad, la gran masa de personas que sí que se preocupan por el cambio climático y que encima sufren que se estén produciendo esos cambios, sobre todo en África. Espero que Sami nos explique cómo podemos cambiar lo que podría ser el futuro. Porque en 2040, habrá en África 2.000 millones de personas con una media de edad de 19 años. Y habrá muchas partes de África que no podrán ser cultivadas, que ya estarán destruidas por el cambio climático. Y las personas que viven allí, en primer lugar, harán una migración interna, pero posteriormente querrán venir aquí. Entonces, bueno, esto será tarea de Sami, será él quien deberá explicarlo en unos momentos, porque yo ya voy a concluir, pero en cualquier caso, la ayuda oficial al desarrollo está desarrollándose, está creciendo. El año pasado eran 148 millones. Representaba una cantidad reducida del Producto Interior Bruto, pero algunos países como Alemania o Gran Bretaña ya están llegando a ese 0,7% de su presupuesto, pero una gran parte de ese crecimiento se ha dedicado para los refugiados. Por tanto, es un tipo de solidaridad muy importante. También
es algo que deja al tercer mundo, como se le denominaba anteriormente, u otros lugares, digamos, de África, se les está dejando un poco de lado. Ellos son los que están más afectados por el cambio climático. He hablado de los casos de Colombia y Perú, pero es algo que también ocurre en África. África está siendo devastada en algunas partes de su territorio, pero yo creo que todavía hay cosas que se pueden hacer. Por ejemplo, la agricultura ecológica ha sido probada en África en condiciones climáticas y geográficas muy diferentes. Disculpen.
And these ecological agriculture
esos experimentos de agricultura ecológica, han tenido muy buenos resultados y en algunos casos han multiplicado por 2 o incluso han superado esa cifra en cuanto a las cosechas anteriores. Por tanto, es algo que se puede hacer, pero se puede hacer mediante una gestión inteligente y sobre todo volviendo a aquellas técnicas que la gente utilizaba hace cientos de años, porque los agricultores de África tienen grandes conocimientos al respecto, pero se han visto sobrepasados por el modelo productivista agrícola que se ha propagado con la globalización y además también la presencia de las corporaciones en esa zona. Por ejemplo, se ha creado un programa denominado Otra Nueva Revolución Verde para África. Este programa está contratando a todos los científicos africanos que son capaces de crear organismos genéticamente modificados con el fin de cambiar África y cambiar su agricultura. Varios países están implicados y por supuesto todos los líderes africanos quieren sacarse la foto con Bill Gates, que es quien promueve esta iniciativa. Esto es algo que efectivamente va a ser otro elemento que va a ir en contra del medio ambiente, porque bueno, no puedo analizar todos los estudios hoy aquí, pero todos sabemos que los resultados de los cultivos de los organismos genéticamente modificados han destrozado las tierras. Puede que hayan funcionado en algunos casos, pero no funcionan bajo todas las condiciones y esto también ha supuesto un gran fracaso. Si la solidaridad pudiera contribuir para ayudar a que efectivamente se desarrolle una agricultura científica y ecológica, yo creo que eso sería un gran avance y que sería interesante analizar, si alguien lo desea, algunos detalles más concretos sobre las cifras que se podrían alcanzar, pero en cualquier caso también os pediría que hicierais alguna donación al Fondo Verde del Clima, porque es un fondo creado por las Naciones Unidas que necesita 100.000 millones de dólares al año en cuanto a sus cálculos para poder luchar contra el cambio climático. No poner fin contra el cambio climático, porque a lo mejor esto no es posible, pero sí al menos contribuir a reducirlo. Y este fondo también está contribuyendo a que estemos todos preparados para lo que puede ocurrir. Este fondo no está obteniendo mucho dinero por parte de los estados. Por tanto, bueno, este es otro aspecto que seguramente podríais observar un poquito más en detalle para conocer esta medida. También os quiero dar algunas ideas sobre cómo podemos pensar en cuanto a estas tres categorías, el medio ambiente, la solidaridad, etcétera. Uniendo esas categorías podemos hacer una reflexión más profunda. A menudo, si no se puede hacer una aportación económica a determinados fondos, a lo mejor podemos simplemente protestar todos
individual by individual. We have to come together.
Tenemos que unirnos porque de forma individual no lo vamos a conseguir. Yo creo que es algo que también está ocurriendo cada vez más. Las organizaciones a menudo solo trataban sobre un tema y ahora están también incluyendo las cuestiones financieras y medioambientales en su agenda. Yo creo que eso es algo importante que está ocurriendo en todo el mundo desarrollado. Yo creo que la solidaridad a lo mejor ya no es tan fuerte como lo era en el pasado, 20, 30, 40 años atrás, donde muchas organizaciones enviaban a personas al tercer mundo, el primer mundo era Occidente, luego teníamos el tercer mundo, que eran todos los demás países, pero ya no se hace esta solidaridad tan fuerte, pero podemos seguir ayudando, estando presentes y aportando ayuda allí donde se necesita, utilizando nuestra propia capacidad para ayudar a otras personas y para que consigan tener esa capacidad de luchar por sus propias necesidades. Bueno, muchas gracias por vuestra atención y espero que también disfrutemos mucho de la conferencia de Summit. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Susan. No, ahora que yo creo que necesitaríamos un tiempo para pensar sobre todo lo que nos ha dicho. Creo que nos deja